Welcome to Roll Credits, where movie lovers get the trivia they didn't know they needed.
Yeah.
This deep dive was created with help from AI tools, so, double check any quotes before you drop trivia at your next movie night.
Always a good rule of thumb, honestly.
Right. Today, we're back in the Pit for Season 2. And, well, did you know the production expanded its set to handle even more complex and chaotic emergency scenarios this time around?
Oh, the scale is just massive now. It's wild.
Yeah, it really is. And before we get into it, drop a comment and let us know what movie or show we should cover next, old or new.
We love getting those suggestions from you guys.
Definitely. So, to kick things off, I want you to imagine trying to fly a 747 blindfolded.
Oh, boy.
Right. Like in the middle of a Category 5 hurricane, you've got hundreds of lives in your hands, the noise is deafening, and then, bam, every single instrument on your dashboard just goes completely dark.
That is genuinely terrifying.
Exactly. You are flying entirely by the seat of your pants.
Yeah.
And that is essentially the exact scenario these doctors are thrown into when a massive modern hospital system suddenly goes completely analog.
Yeah, because it strips away every single safety net they have. I mean, modern medicine relies so heavily on digital charting and automated lab results.
Not to mention just instant communication across different departments, right?
Right, exactly. So when that digital infrastructure collapses, you're left with exhausted people physically running paper charts down these long hallways.
Just trying to keep patients alive through sheer stamina.
And muscle memory, yeah. It's a complete nightmare scenario.
And that absolute nightmare is exactly where we find ourselves today as we dive into our stack of sources for Season 2 of The Pit.
We've got some amazing sources for this one, too.
Oh, definitely. We're looking at a whole collection of behind-the-scenes interviews with the cast, the cinematographer, production design blueprints, and even commentary from real-world medical professionals.
Which is so crucial for a show like this.
Totally. So we're picking up about 10 months after the intense events of Season 1, dropping right back into the fictional Pittsburgh Trauma Medical Center.
And the creators decided that a normal day in the ER just simply wasn't stressful enough.
Right, because why make it easy?
Exactly. So they set this new season during a chaotic 4th of July weekend.
Which I imagine is pretty rough even on a good day.
Oh, the 4th of July is notoriously one of the most high-volume, unpredictable shifts of the entire year for any trauma center.
Because of the fireworks?
Fireworks accidents, heat stroke, car crashes, and just a general surge in, alcohol-related injuries.
Right. But the inciting incident that really turns the screws this season is that system-wide computer failure we talked about.
Yes. It forces the entire ER to revert to those analog methods right in the middle of this massive holiday patient surge.
Which fundamentally changes the pacing of the narrative. I mean, The Pit already operates on this really unique, real-time structural gimmick. But Season 2 it traps you, the viewer, in this relentless, nonstop 15-hour shift alongside Noah Wile's character, Dr. Robbie, and his team.
And by stripping away the technology, you really feel the physical weight of every passing second.
Yeah, because when a doctor needs a blood type, they can't just glance at a tablet anymore.
Right. Someone has to physically run to the lab, wait for the test to finish, and then physically run back.
The psychological effect of that on the viewer is profound. It creates a very specific kind of viewing anxiety.
Oh, absolutely. The characters are completely cut off from the broader hospital ecosystem.
The pacing becomes incredibly raw because those delays are actual physical delays. You're watching these characters hit their absolute physical limits.
And critics are totally captivated by this approach, by the way. Early reviews from Rotten Tomatoes point out that the show completely dodges the dreaded sophomore slump.
Oh, that's so rare for a hit show.
It is. But what really stands out in these critiques is the emotional texture. Despite the massive, heart-pounding stakes of the computer failure, reviewers note the show actually thrives on small acts of kindness amidst all the chaos.
Wow, so it's really about finding humanity in the dark.
Exactly. But to effectively trap you in that 15-hour analog nightmare without it feeling, repetitive or visually stagnant, the production couldn't just rely on sharp dialogue.
Right, the physical environment itself had to inherently support that continuous real-time movement.
Which required an entirely new approach to the physical set. They didn't just rent an abandoned hospital building or redress an old set from another show.
No, they went all out. The production actually built a custom 20,000 square foot soundstage at Warner Brothers in Burbank.
It's a massive 25-bed ER, and it costs like $4 million to construct.
That is insane. And the production designer, Nina Ruscio, she engineered the space using the specific layout she calls the cup and curve.
Which is so brilliant because in a typical hospital, or even just a typical television set, you have these hard angles and dead ends.
Right, like a standard T-intersection hallway.
Yeah, and if a camera follows a character down a straight hallway to a T intersection, the visual momentum has to stop, or the camera has to cut.
And they wanted to avoid cutting.
Exactly. The cup and curve design eliminates those hard stops. The architecture itself features these sweeping circular pathways.
So a camera can follow a character down a corridor, wrap seamlessly around a central nurse's station, and just flow right into a trauma bay without a single cut.
It's a true 360-degree environment. Which leads us to the cinematography. I was looking at the technical breakdowns, and the cinematographer, Johanna Coelho, shot the entire series exclusively handheld.
Right, to give it that gritty documentary feel. But the lighting setup actually threw me when I was reading the sources.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, the sources mentioned there are nearly 300 lighting cues integrated directly into the ceilings and walls of the set, and 0 traditional lighting stands on the floor.
Not a single one.
But if you just build flat panels into the ceiling, like a standard office building, doesn't that make the show look completely flat? Like, I'm picturing a brightly lit, multicam sitcom where there are no shadows and everything is perfectly visible.
You know, it's a common misconception that overhead lighting equals sitcom lighting, but the mechanics here achieve the exact opposite effect.
Okay, explain that to me because I was confused.
So, sitcoms use massive diffused fill lights placed on the floor in front of the actors to erase shadows and make everyone look vibrant and healthy.
Right, so you can see all their expressions.
Exactly. But by eliminating those floor lights entirely and relying solely on those 300 practical cues built into the ceiling and walls, Coelho creates a deeply shadow-heavy reality.
Ah, okay. So the light falls exactly the way it does in a real fluorescent lit hospital.
Yes, it casts these harsh shadows right under the actors' eyes, which naturally enhances their exhausted, haggard appearance during that 15-hour shift.
Wow, so it's not about making them look good, it's about making them look real.
Exactly. And by removing all the cables and light stands from the floor, the camera operator gets complete freedom. The camera can act as a silent resident in the room.
That makes sense. It can whip around 180 degrees to catch a sudden reaction to a flatlining monitor without accidentally filming, a crew member holding a bounce board.
It never breaks the illusion of the space.
Yeah.
And Coelho used a specialized Steadicam hybrid rig to navigate all of this.
Which eliminates that nauseating shaky cam jitter that can really distract the audience, right?
Yeah, but it still allows the camera to physically weave through overlapping background stories.
I love that. You can watch a primary scene unfold in the foreground while the camera just suddenly drifts to reveal a secondary crisis happening like 2 beds over.
It's so dynamic. Coelho actually cited Sam Mendes's World War I film, 1917, as her cinematic inspiration.
Oh, wow. That film is famous for looking like one continuous take through the trenches.
Exactly. And she compared the doctors moving through this ER to soldiers advancing through a war zone. There is just this relentless forward momentum.
The camera is dodging gurneys, ducking around nurses, and moving from one crisis to the next without a single moment of stillness.
And the physical freedom of that camera fundamentally changes the demands placed on the cast, too.
Oh, for sure. Because on a traditional television set, an actor knows exactly where the camera is and where the edge of the frame is.
Right. If they are performing a complex medical procedure, they can just cheat it.
Yeah, they can hide their hands, or the director could just cut to a tight insert shot of a real doctor's hands doing the action.
But with a 360-degree environment and a roaming camera, there is nowhere to hide.
The actors couldn't fake these procedures because the camera could just glide behind them or over their shoulder at literally any moment.
Which meant they had to actually know how to execute the medical techniques from every possible angle.
That sounds intense.
It was. It led to a grueling 2-week medical boot camp before cameras ever even rolled.
2 weeks of just medical training.
Yep. And the curriculum went far beyond basic terminology. Isa Briones, who plays Dr. Santos, detailed the training process in one of our sources.
What kind of stuff were they learning?
The cast had to master chest compressions, proper suturing techniques, and even intubation.
Oh, intubation is the process of inserting a breathing tube down a patient's trachea, right?
Exactly. And they didn't just learn the modernized version of it. Briones mentioned they learned with a modern glide scope, which has a tiny camera attached to the end to guide the tube.
Which seems a lot easier.
But they also had to learn the old school blind method.
Wait, blind intubation?
Yeah, in a blind intubation, you don't have a camera. You just have to feel your way down the airway based entirely on human anatomy.
That is incredibly stressful just to think about.
Right. But Briones was actually incredibly proud that she nailed the blind intubation on her very first try.
Good for her. I mean, mastering those tactile skills has to change how an actor inhabits their body on screen.
Absolutely. When an actor actually knows the weight and resistance of the tool in their hand, they stop acting like a doctor and start moving like one.
And to capitalize on that, the production brought in medical professionals to choreograph every single trauma scene step by step before filming.
But it wasn't the kind of clean theatrical choreography we're used to seeing on TV.
Right, usually directors block a scene so that every actor's face is perfectly visible to the camera. It looks like this pristine, well-rehearsed
The
dance.
real doctors advising the pit specifically told the cast to stop apologizing when they bumped into each other.
Oh, I love that detail.
Yeah, they explained that in a real ER trauma bay, it is crowded, people are constantly reaching over one another, arms are colliding, lines of sight are blocked.
The messiness is the point, and the show leans entirely into that messiness. The blocking forces the actors to fight for physical space around the patient's bed, just like they would in reality.
And this is heavily amplified by the fact that 90% of the medical equipment on that $4 million set is fully functional.
Wait, 90%?
Yeah, the monitors beep accurately, the oxygen lines actually flow, the suction machines work.
Which introduces a whole new level of unpredictability, because when you introduce functional scalpels and working equipment, things are bound to go off script.
Definitely. Briones admitted she accidentally dropped a real, slightly sharper scalpel right into someone's shoe during a take.
Oh my gosh. Into their shoe.
Yeah. Thankfully, no one was hurt, but it speaks to the actual physical stakes on the set.
Reading through the behind-the-scenes trivia, it's so clear the production surrendered a lot of traditional directorial control just to achieve this realism.
That commitment to practical effects over, computer-generated imagery forces these intensely authentic reactions from the cast.
Oh, speaking of authentic reactions, we have to talk about the scene with the patient Troy Digby.
Oh, no. I know where this is going.
Listeners, if you are squeamish, you might want to brace yourselves for this one. So, Troy comes in needing an old cast removed.
And the production used actual live maggots for the reveal under the cast.
Live maggots. Katrin Lanasa, who plays charge nurse Dana Evans, vividly described it as the most disgusting thing she's ever read in a script, let alone had to actually film.
I don't blame her, but it goes beyond just the gross out factor, too.
True. Like
Oh.
in that pediatric scene, the script called for a baby to provide a urine sample,
Right, and instead of using a prop or like a hidden tube, the medical advisors instructed them to stimulate the baby's suprapubic region with cold water.
which is a legitimate medical technique.
Exactly, and the baby actually peed on cue.
When an actor is reacting to live maggots or unpredictable biological responses from an infant, they aren't performing anymore. They're genuinely reacting to their environment.
It makes the viewing experience incredibly visceral. But even with all the practical realism, the cast still has to grapple with the dense, highly technical medical vocabulary.
Which leads to some amazing jargon bloopers.
Yeah.
It's a huge part of the cast's dynamic. Briones mentioned they would routinely break down laughing, just trying to pronounce complex terms.
Like methemoglobinemia.
It's exactly. After 15 takes of stumbling over the syllables of methemoglobinemia, while simultaneously pretending to save a life, the sheer absurdity of the acting process would just break them.
It's a fascinating duality, They are performers trying to memorize incredibly difficult dialogue, but they're striving to represent a deeply sobering life or death reality.
And reading about the live maggots, the functional scalpels, the sheer relentless pacing, it really makes me wonder about the line between entertainment and simulation.
Because you're no longer just watching a drama. You are watching a high-fidelity recreation of workplace trauma.
Exactly. And for actual medical professionals watching at home, I was wondering if this crosses the line into being genuinely triggering.
That's a very real concern. The creators are highly aware of that tightrope, and they actively seek out real-world validation.
Right. And they got it from Dr. Brent Rao, right?
Yes. Dr. Rao is the emergency medical director at Allegheny General Hospital in Pittsburgh, which actually serves as the direct inspiration for the series.
And he's spoken extensively about the show. He praises its emotional accuracy above all else.
He specifically points out how accurately the show captures the internal reality of suffering, the way doctors have to compartmentalize and momentarily shut down their own empathy just to do their jobs.
Particularly when treating pediatric traumas.
Noah Weil also took direct feedback from healthcare workers after the first season aired. The response was overwhelmingly positive, but real hospital workers pointed out a few missing elements in the background ecosystem.
So for season 2, Weil and the producers explicitly integrated respiratory therapists, or RTs, and physical nurse practitioners into the background and the active storylines.
Because they recognize that an ER isn't just doctors and nurses, it's an entire network of highly specialized technicians.
That commitment to granular authenticity is just so impressive. And it bleeds directly into the broader systemic issues the characters are forced to navigate this season.
Right, because the physical exhaustion of the 15-hour shift isn't just a backdrop, it acts as a pressure cooker for the character arcs.
Take Dr. Robbie, played by Noah Weil. He is carrying an immense psychological burden this season. He is finally preparing to take a much-needed sabbatical, but his plans are complicated by the return of Dr. Langdon, played by Patrick Ball.
And Langdon is coming back to the ER straight from rehab after that addiction storyline involving stolen pills in season 1.
Robbie isn't just managing the fallout of that. He is consumed by guilt. He believes he fundamentally failed Langdon as a mentor by missing the signs of addiction right under his nose.
Robbie is a character who relies heavily on instinct, physical connection, and old-school mentorship. He wants to look his patients and his colleagues right in the eye.
And that philosophy is immediately challenged by the arrival of a new attending physician, Dr. Al-Hashimi, played by Sepideh Malafi.
She steps into this analog, chaotic environment and immediately pushes for a radical modernization of their workflow,
Specifically advocating for the introduction of generative AI for patient charting.
which introduces one of the most fiercely debated topics in modern medicine directly into the narrative.
Absolutely. And I want to be really clear here for you, the listener. We are absolutely not taking sides on the real-world politics of AI in healthcare.
Right, we are strictly looking at how the show imparts both sides of the argument based on our sources.
Exactly. So the show presents the pro-AI efficiency argument through Dr. Al-Hashimi. And her stance is heavily supported by real-life advocates like Stanford Dr. Alok Patel, who have praised the show's handling of this issue.
The core of the pro-AI argument is about the most valuable resource in a hospital: time.
Because charting and paperwork consume hours of a doctor's shift.
Generative AI can listen to a patient interaction and synthesize a chart in seconds. Theoretically, this frees doctors from their keyboards, allowing them to spend more direct time with patients.
Or simply giving them a chance to rest and avoid burnout.
But then you have the counter-argument, championed by Robbie, which focuses on the realities of hospital administration.
Right. Robbie's fear is that the administration won't view the time saved by AI as an opportunity for doctors to rest or provide better care.
Instead, they'll view it as a metric of increased efficiency, using it as an excuse to force already exhausted doctors to see a higher volume of patients without hiring any additional human support staff.
I thought of an analogy for this while reading the sources. It's like introducing a state-of-the-art high-speed train to a crumbling transit system.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
The AI engine is incredibly powerful and will absolutely get you to the destination faster.
Yeah.
But if the tracks, meaning the physical hospital beds, the nursing staff, the psychiatric support systems aren't simultaneously upgraded to handle that increased velocity, a derailment is inevitable.
You cannot safely run a faster engine on broken tracks. And the show dramatizes this exact risk in the second episode.
Oh, right, the hallucination scene.
Yeah, Dr. Al-Hashimi is demonstrating the incredible speed of the AI charting system, but the AI hallucinates and actually prescribes the wrong medication for a patient.
Wow.
The system relies entirely on the exhausted human doctors to catch the machine's error before it becomes fatal.
So think about this. Imagine yourself standing in the middle of that 20,000 square foot set. You are 12 hours into a chaotic holiday shift. The alarms are blaring. You're physically running between trauma days, and your cognitive function is completely depleted.
Do you have the mental bandwidth left to rigorously double-check the subtle dosage errors of an artificial intelligence?
Would you trust a machine with your medical license and a patient's life when human fatigue is severely compromising your own judgment?
It's a heavy question, and that underlying sense of fatigue and the heavy emotional toll of the job isn't something the cast entirely had to invent either.
Right. There is a profound behind-the-scenes anecdote about the reality of the outside world bleeding into the production environment.
While they were filming this high-stakes season in Los Angeles, massive real-life wildfires broke out across the region.
Isa Briones recounted how the sky outside their soundstage literally turned black from the smoke.
The air quality plummeted so drastically that production actually had to be completely shut down.
She describes sitting in the cast trailers, wearing their fictional hospital scrubs, just waiting to hear if it was safe enough to continue pretending to save lives.
It created this surreal cognitive dissonance for the cast. They were sitting inside a multi-million-dollar, perfectly engineered simulation of frontline medical work.
While just miles away, actual emergency responders were risking their lives in devastating conditions.
It fundamentally shifted the atmosphere on set. The cast realized the profound privilege of their position, stepping into these roles while real heroes faced actual fire and smoke.
It grounded the performances so much. It stripped away any lingering Hollywood ego and replaced it with a deep reverence for the healthcare workers they were portraying.
And that viewing anxiety we feel as an audience is effective precisely because the people making the show deeply respect the weight of the reality they are mimicking.
Every single choice, from the lack of floor lighting to the inclusion of live maggots, serves to collapse the distance between the viewer and the reality of the emergency room.
Which brings us to a really fascinating final thought inspired by cinematographer Johanna Coelho.
Yeah, she described the experience of watching The Pit with its continuous takes, sweeping camera movements, and real-time pacing as feeling less like traditional television and more like a VR experience playing out on your screen.
You are pulled so completely into the physical space that you actually feel the claustrophobia of the trauma bay.
It totally pushes the boundaries of visual storytelling.
So as you process everything we've unpacked today, I want to leave you with this to ponder. If this level of immersive, anxiety-inducing realism is where television is currently operating, is the future of the medium not just about sharper writing or more expansive sets, but about erasing the physical screen entirely?
Could the next evolution of the medical drama literally place you, the viewer, directly inside the trauma bay through virtual reality?
And if the technology allows you to stand shoulder to shoulder with doctors holding real scalpels in the midst of a 15-hour analog shift, would you even have the stomach to handle it? The evolution of how we consume these high-stakes narratives is moving just as fast as the medical technology depicted within them.
And that wraps our deep dive into The Pit Season 2. If you enjoyed stepping back into this high-pressure world, follow Roll Credits and share it with your fellow TV fans.
And don't forget to drop a comment with what movie or show we should cover next, old or new.
We'll be back soon with more trivia, more movie magic, and maybe a few more high-stakes moments.